Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Hey Bjorn, how you doing? Anyone confirm if we're getting music and or hello Seisu? Hey Will. The Bjorn beat ya. Music is very low. Better. Might also be in between some. Hey Jack, how you doing, buddy? Cool. I'm glad y'all can hear me. Music should be quieter though. I'll be back momentarily. Momentarily. Are we excited for a little bit of magic? Excuse me. Sorry. Hoping you can hear me. Nice, Will. Welcome to the stream. A good representation across the board today. You know what? Let's get the stream started a little bit early. How about that? Throat is a little bit rough today, so might have to take a break at about the midpoint. But yeah, I'm excited for today's stream. Like, we got a lot of stuff to showcase, and some things were fixed between the last stream and today's stream. So like a couple room types that we weren't really able to effectively showcase during the last stream, so we'll be able to showcase them today. Oh wow, Hugo, that's awesome. That's really cool. Glad to hear it. By the way, I want to say thank you to those that have followed in the last 5 minutes since, you know, we had this countdown going. The Miracle Man and Adzi766, thank you for the follows, much appreciated. Yeah, this here is I mean, it is quite an array of color. Will, you're correct. This here is the Fey Plain biome, which I just I generated this and then changed the light. So really all I did, let's go to the stock lighting here. This is the stock light in this room, like in this, or I mean in this biome. This is just normal time of day. You know, you can change the time of day and it still looks quite beautiful, don't get me wrong. But my impression of the Fae, how I always envisioned it, is, you know, a perpetual twilight, and I always kind of felt like it had like this magical sense to it. So this is kind of how I like it the most, is when it has this purple haze on it. But that's just personal preference. So how's everyone doing? We've got live right now across multiple stream platforms. And welcome one and all, actually. My name is Mac. I'm the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. This stream will be a little sneak peek to the magic update before it launches on the 12th. Yes, just a few short days away. But until then, we love to give you a little showcase of magic as it is in its current state. So there's day. There's night. Let's do the purple. And then purple with night. So I like it. I don't know. I think it looks really good. Anyway, I just want to say thank you to everyone that's watching. We've got an amazing amount of support across all different platforms. We've got people here from Twitch, Steam, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Trovo, Kick, etc. So I appreciate every one of you that are here watching right now and showing your support. It means the world to me and our community. Throughout the stream, we will be showcasing bits and pieces of the next update, which is titled Magic. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of Magic-themed content in store. For those of you that caught the stream last week, a lot of what you see today will likely be similar or repetitive, but we'll be able to dive in it more expansively and explore a couple things that weren't working correctly last week. So, Elf Monster asks, any chance there could be more control of those color palettes, by the way, perhaps RGB settings? You know, yes, a lot of, assets have the hue shifter, which allows you to kind of bounce between various hues and adjust the coloring. And we plan to expand upon this with time. We have a whole update planned for object, like, manipulation and enhancement called Fun with Objects, which is most likely rumored to be the update after Magic. So at this point, I mean, it's very likely we'll be addressing like more ways to add color, more like ways to manipulate an object, more ways to copy objects, etc. How you doing, display name? A map palette? You know, that is a good question. As far as that's concerned, realistically, we kind of handpicked the color palettes for each biome, and we're limited to how many colors we can add to each biome, so there really isn't any, like, customization or options to handpick how the biome generates, but maybe that could be something on the, you know, in the roadmap in the future. It remains to be seen. You mean the light? Oh, okay. I mean, it only takes a couple clicks to change to this, but I don't think really light manipulation is part of the biome creation that much. It pretty much all defaults to the regular time of day, like this. You changing the light before you export is usually a personal preference type thing. You can adjust the filters and color by playing with the color filters or moving the light source around. Time of day, brightness, etc. That really looks good, I'm not gonna lie. I just unfortunately can't speak to what, say, 3-4 updates from now might hold, so it could be something we add in the future, but right now I can't really speak to it other than what's coming out in our next update. I.e. Magic. So, really quickly, I just want to reiterate that this build is a beta state, and there is a more advanced build that the devs are working on than this one, but they don't push out a build for me like every day. So, you know, there's bound to be little bugs and things we run into. Say, Sue, can you grab that question? Also, I forgot to pull up the document. Where is that link? Let's see here. Stand by, everyone. Gotta grab some. Okay, I've got the question sheet pulled up now, so if you want to keep adding to that, we'll go from there. Sound good? Eglum TV, thank you for the follow. MDC 404, thank you for the follow, much appreciated. You can already do that, Hugo. Let me show you. Yes, please format your questions with a question tag. I kind of forgot to say that when we started. I messed up. Just like Wolf Gold just did. Please do that. So let's say you put out a bunch of objects and you want to change their color en masse, right? So for instance, like you said, crystals. I'm going to go to nature here and I'm going to find brush. Here we go. Let's say I wanted to change these colors of these from purple to something else, right? So I'm going to find one and let's say I want them all to be blue or green or just a portion of them to be green for that matter. I highlight the one and change it to green, and then using the command, the hotkey Control C or Command C, depending on your Windows or Mac. So here it would be copy properties or paste properties as well. Then you could drag over a bunch of items in the area and change them all to a different color. This will work to turn on animations on and off, to open and close doors, things like that. You can pretty much en masse change a bunch of objects. Or, you know, select groupings using the wand or like the little lasso tool that I wrapped around the area. So going forward, we're gonna answer questions after we discuss, you know, different segments of the update. We should be focusing on the update. Today isn't really about support and providing support, so let's try and keep the questions related to what we're going to be focusing on the stream, okay? So first and foremost, let's see here. I am going to generate a quick map of the Fey biome, just to show you that. And we'll go through the variations. So you have different elevations, just like normal. So let's do this spiral one. We'll do no vegetation, so you can see what the spiral looks like. Denari, you're not that late. Don't worry about it. So as you can see, there's a neat, like, spiral upward. Which is kind of cool. Let's regenerate this biome here. We're going to change the vegetation state to a crystal forest, actually. Generate that. I mean, Denari, at the moment, we're just talking about the Feywild biome. So just biomes in general. I really like the scattering of color. But same as before, let's take a look here. Let's say I wanted all of them to be orange, or maybe I wanted this one to be green and a few more. So now there's big clusters of this like emerald green mixed in. And I can always undo that if I'm not happy with it. Yeah, it's called copy paste properties, object properties essentially. So essentially you can set an object to a state, whether it's change its color, enable its animation, open it, whatever, and then copy that property to many other objects. One thing I really like is turning off all the lights on a map or turning them all on. So if it's like nighttime on a map, you'd want all the lamps lit, but during the day you probably wouldn't, right? So you could quickly change the state of all the lights in a couple of clicks. Anyway, as you look here, essentially it's a big spiral kind of terrain feature just loaded with the crystals. I think it looks great. Unfortunately, the biome generation density is pretty high, but you could just quickly reduce it using the object eraser. I mean, wouldn't take long to taper it out. You don't really like where it's at, you know? I mean, it'd probably take me less than 10 seconds. You can actually increase that brush size too, so you can take a lot of it away. Alternatively, you could generate it without. So let's say we change the terrain to no vegetation, right? Have it without the the crystals everywhere, and then use the object brush, which instead of the eraser under nature we have the I know we have the fake crystals here, fake crystal. So you could paint them on, and you can adjust the settings to make them more random. The scaling, the average, this is all stuff that will be available in the new update. A bunch of advanced settings in the object brush. So essentially you have some control over, manipulating that yourself if you don't trust the AI. The AI can only do so much at the moment because it's procedural generation first and foremost. And when we say AI, I want you to understand our AI is like last gen AI. It's not generative AI, and at no point do we scrape public data or train it from maps on the workshop or any of your public maps or any of the assets from the workshop used in our development. Essentially, we train the AI in-house on our own maps and own rooms with all the assets that our artist team makes internally. So we feel like we took as ethical of an approach as we could to developing the AI, and we feel using an AI to make maps to save time for your D&D campaigns, is probably a good use of an AI in the first place. Anyway, there is always going to be these stamped flowers, unfortunately, unless you just change the entire paint. Like, you could paint over it, but they'll still come back no matter what. Hey, how you doing, Sack? How you doing, Starseeker? Welcome, welcome. Denari, I'll just answer that really quickly. No, it'll work for all the objects of a similar property. They don't have to be the same object. So all lights. You could have 500 different lights on the map of different types of lighting, and it'll turn them all off. It's just where you drag. That's the distinguish, type thing there. So long as you drag over the area, then those lights will be affected. But yeah, these flowers, no matter what, are a base part of the palette that you just can't get rid of because it's the Feywild. There's going to be, plant life everywhere. There is really no place where it's not. That's kind of the theme here. Does that make sense? MDC, at this time we've opted to not really lean on our community in that way. A lot of people have offered, and the devs have considered it, but I think they'd just rather keep it all internal. Mainly because they know what they're looking for when they're trying to train it. And then we could take 100 maps in from our community, and maybe only a handful of them might work for the need or for what we're trying to do. So ultimately, I think it's kind of, it's easier to focus on how to train the procedural generation when we're have a very fixed idea in mind. But that is a good question. And if it ever comes to a point that they want community, feedback in that matter, or not just feedback, but maps and content in that regard, I'm sure we'll reach out to our community in some form of an announcement or something. But for now, I don't think that's something we really have an interest in. I do think it is nice that we haven't really, you know, taken your data and used it to train the AI, is what I'm getting at. Yeah, it's come up a few times. You're not the first person to ask. Exactly. The variant creation, the damn variant decorathon is a perfect example. Like we have a little fun like ongoing event in our Discord where you can kind of make groupings of objects and then the devs might incorporate them into the future builds. But the problem is not all of them get accepted, like less than 5% basically. And it's sad, I feel bad about it, but it's like there's very strict rule creation around variant creation. However, we hope to expand upon that and make it better, especially with fun with objects. So when I'm talking about variant creation, a lot of objects in DA are pre-decorated. I'm sure a lot of you have noticed like the tables and desks have stuff on them, and every time you place them, they're different, right? If you press tab before you place an object in Dungeon Alchemist, it'll change the layout of what's on top of it. We call these variants. Well, I think we were more learning what some of the rules would work and wouldn't work. It's not even so much that, you know what I mean? Let's see here. We also had a follow from Lego, my super ego. Thank you for the follow, much appreciated. Okay, so let's and sometimes Wim and I will coordinate on rules and it just doesn't work at the end of the day. We're testing things, trying to see what will work. That's kind of the whole point of the damn variant decorathon. Anyway, moving on. More biomes. We've got the mushroom forest. I did it on this spiral mountaintop because I thought it would look really cool. But we can also change it to like flat. Whoa. Can't even see anything. I'm gonna... Just in a top down, that's pretty much... Can't see anything. I'm gonna talk to Carl about this because I feel like it's not really navigable. There's no grid space where you can actually get at. There's gonna be very little grid available. The caps need to be transparent. Interesting. Or just, smaller. Or less. Oh my goodness. It is... The tokens are tiny compared. You can definitely wander around in there. Here, let me disable collisions. We'll pop one of our new tokens in from... We'll do a Fox Folk Wizard. They have effects that look like they glow, but they do not export as a light upon export. Same with the crystals. These ones look really deadly. like a skull on the outside. You can see like it looks like a skull. Another one that definitely looks like a skull. If you eat those mushrooms, you won't have to eat again for the rest of your life. So these little fey fireflies, they look like little fairies. Yes, because your life will rapidly end. It's like if you eat uranium has like 6 billion calories per tablespoon or something. So you'll never have to eat again for the rest of your life, both because the amount of calories and because it's dangerous. You won't live after you eat it. In this case, it's just, I probably wouldn't advise eating a mushroom with a skull on it. That doesn't look healthy. That's just my 2 cents. I honestly am not sure how to take that. I do like it with the little firefly mix in. Get that purple kind of filter, and it looks great. I mean, would you prefer I don't explain when you ask me questions? Is the real thing here. Because at the end of the day, I only explained it because someone asked me. That looks really good. Oh, the green. I really like this like teal. I don't know why, it just makes the mushrooms pop. What do y'all think of that color? I'm gonna put some yellow fog, which now looks green. But it kind of looks like a spore cloud, doesn't it? Rip Decibel. Aren't they able to determine the amount of calories in something by putting it in something and burning it, or like exploding it? So technically they could figure out how many calories are in something just by like pretty much anything. You could determine the calories in it. Hey, Rip Decibel and Jarl Elbow, thank you so much for the follows, much appreciated. Welcome to the stream. We are showcasing some teaser content from our next update called Magic. So this is a biome called the Mushroom Forest, and we were playing around with different we try to host streams constantly. We have, let's see here, 3 streams a week at minimum, sometimes more. So essentially you can find us on like Twitch and all these other platforms every Monday and every Saturday, and we also host a stream on Wednesday in our Discord. These streams are designed to be kind of a guiding force to help you learn about Dungeon Alchemist and how to better utilize it as a tool. All the ins and outs, you know, some pro tips. I have like almost 2,500 hours of map making now, and I've spent tons of time, you know, guiding new map makers and learning from the pros in our community. To be honest with you, the streams are really designed to teach you and guide you. Like a tutorial is great, but they get outdated in a program like this really quickly. You know, I made tutorials to make caves and they were outdated in like a few months. So a lot of things get outdated because Dungeon Alchemist is in early access and it's in a constant state of flux, and things are being changed and adjusted and made better. For instance, you know, just a few months ago, we would have said, you know, you can't really make a round room. And now you can, when the new update comes out, you'll be able to make round and diagonal walls. You'll be able to rotate structures. Here, I'm going to leave this corner on there to show how you can rotate this, and it's easy to see. You can raise structures up and down. So there's this little number here, and it shows you how tall it is. Plus, you could see the floor plan. So that's just raising it just over 25 feet. I'm going to make it a true circle here. And we'll generate. Once we leave early access, though, things will get better. Oh, I didn't generate it with anything. That's my bad. Here, let me turn all the AI on. I had like all of it off. Excuse me. So now we have like a round witch hut at the top here. Jarl, you've been waiting, holding off. I'm sure it's been rough for you and your players. Thank you for the update, Seisu. I was kind of learning more about the room generation and stuff. Like how to play with it a bit. I'm gonna match this up. I feel like if you drag from this, see, yeah, then we can make this like a platform. Here we go. But now we have like a separate area. That's pretty cool. I like that. So if you drag from within the area, then you can make it a different portion. Where is the witch one? Witch. Woven wood. Yeah, they could be for like a, you know, like a tribal village or, you know what I mean? All sorts of stuff. No, the round rooms will not require new community assets. In fact, all of our existing assets will work with them. And the windows and doors and stuff work with them. Here, I'll draw an old room to show you. What's one of my favorite old room types is the cabin. I'm gonna make it circle. In fact, I'll make it like a weird kind of teardrop shape. Sound good? Just to show you how versatile this is. I'm gonna make this just level with the ground. and then we'll generate it. So notice like the windows and stuff, they dynamically bend to it, and this is an old type of generation, so it fits and works. I think I was going to just try and put a staircase here to see what it looks like. We can go into structural, right? Grab one of these random staircases. There's a good chunk of them in here. We do like a spiral stair. One could work if you do it all the way up. Have it meet up with a portion of the house up there. Probably have to clear out some mushrooms. So there's a bunch of new round type stairs for like rounded rooms, which are nice and beneficial to help kind of flush those out. But I mean, there's hundreds of different wood and stone stair options to work with multi-level. And then remember, you can always generate adjacent buildings at lower levels and kind of just tuck them together with just slight like terrain bridges or bridges in general, stairs, etc. Okay, let's generate a new biome really quick. We'll go with a Fey Forest on flat. Pen Patamat, thank you for the follow, and Jarl Elbow and Rip Decibel as well. Thank you for the follows if I didn't shout you out earlier. Appreciate it. That forest is quite dense. Very little grid is present. Yeah, I'm gonna point that out. I like it, but it's too dense. Tokens are not manageable in this, and it feels like you're on top of the canopy, not in it. Hey, Caillou, how you doing, buddy? For those just tuning in, my name is Mac. I'm the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. Dungeon Alchemist is what you see in front of you. It's a map-making utility and immersion tool that is available on Steam, and it allows you to build amazingly immersive fantasy-based maps for your tabletop gaming sessions. Whether you play in person or online, or you essentially do everything in between, Dungeon Alchemist is a great tool to add to your tool belt as a GM, DM, to really immerse your players. So it allows you to build beautiful maps that you can export to a number of different tools, whether you want to print it on your own home printer, or export it and print it as a game mat through our partner Kraken War Games. Alternatively, you can export for an assortment of virtual tabletop software. We work with the major software tools such as Foundry, Fantasy Grounds, Roll20, and more. And we even offer animated map export, which would support, things like these swaying trees that are moving ever so slightly, and the animations of like the torches, etc. Water. So you get a little bit more out of the maps than just a standard still map. What is elf? What are you talking about, elf monster? Assuming you're referring to like just how it places everything. Yeah, essentially. You can control Z to undo, but that's it. But once you've undone, like if you've worked on past this, let's say you kind of start shaping this, right? Here. So let's say you start shaping it, right? And then you're like, I don't like that. You can always undo varied steps with Control Z. And let's say I generate the structure, right? So I've moved it a little bit, and then I raised it. Uh-oh. Great. Up, rotate it. Maybe bump these little round, make these like a round bit out there at the edge. Because why not, right? And then once you've done this, let's say you generate the structure, you can then only undo it at that point. So as long as it's in your undo queue and you don't mind undoing a bunch of steps, sure. But once the room is generated, you can undo it at this point and then still move it, but only at this point. So you would, if you've been making stuff for 5 minutes after, then no. The undo queue can remember hundreds of steps though, so keep that in mind. That's exactly what I'm doing right here, Jarl. I can sink it into the ground too, or I can just leave it at floor level. I can raise it up, I can rotate it, I can make all sorts of custom shapes. Now, once a room's generated, like if you want to attach to it, it's still quite possible. What you would want to do is grab on that room and start generating out of it, right? And then that will attach this to that room. Does that make sense? So it becomes like 2 rooms that are 2 pieces. You mean like a ziggurat or something? Multi-level isn't supported with our AI at this time. And I'm probably only going to say that like probably 200 more times this stream because it seems to not really... Yeah, let's please start questions with question. I know they're not being answered right away. It's because there's a list of questions that I'm going to answer in a moment. I'm not sure how it interfaces with the JSON, if I'm being honest with you. I assume that there's really no change there, mainly because we don't really have any interface with the new level system that Foundry only launched like 2 weeks ago. Let's see, yeah. Let's try... I mean, ultimately, you're going to have to connect them manually somehow with like a stair or like a land bridge or something in between if they're at multiple levels. So if you start, say, let's say you put another connection, a piece of this temple that was raised up over here and rotated, right? You would have to connect it somehow. And if I connect it to this and then rotate it or raise it, it's not going to work. So ultimately, I think, you got to think of how you're going to do this stuff. Arch here. It won't let me put an arch there. Guess we could put a couple of these gates. And then you got to put up like a stair going to that, right? Something between the two. Under our structural section is literally hundreds of stairs. And then I'm pretty sure in our workshop there's even more. So you could grab a stair like this and then disable collisions, right? Do something like this in between and then lower it down to match that height. This is just one of a few stairs. I just grabbed one really quickly. And then I would probably tie a couple of these stairs together. Something like that. Probably these are too close together to really work. You'd really have to space it just right to get it just right. But, I mean, I might be able to do some kind of stair going up here, like a spiral. Or one of these, like, weird... I don't know. Something like this. Possibly. You get it. At the end of the day, it is possible, but it would take a little bit of work at the end of the day to fine-tune, especially until we offer true multi-level support. Okay. Let's take a moment to answer some questions. Are they going to add any fairies? The Fey Fireflies are essentially fairies. And then we also have Fireflies and Will-O-Wisps that all look really fairy-like. So you can use any of those interchangeably. Let's see. Any stats on stuff like new food items? What do you mean? Are you asking if there are new food items? Is that what the question is? Yes. I'm pretty sure there's lots of new food items, but mostly just fruit and like variations of Fey fruit. They were asking if there's a token that's more like a fairy. Stand by. Let's look. I don't think there is a fairy in the group. That would have been a nice addition, but it looks like there isn't. So there was 22 new tokens added in the update. By the way, thank you for the follows in the last 10 minutes. We had Passing By Posts and Old 7H. Much appreciated. Welcome to the Damn Fam, as we like to say around here. So you got an Artificer, a couple Dragons, Centaur, a couple Dragonborns, a Fawn. Feline Wizard, Foxfolk Wizard, Kobold Cleric, Lord of Bones, Owlfolk Wizard, which I was hoping for. What were we hoping for, say so? We got a couple rabbit folk, or rabbitkin. We got a raven. A couple skeletal warriors. Fairy token? I don't think we have a fairy token. If we do, it's under the NPCs, and it would likely be just like this person here. That's like a halfling. I don't think we have a fairy. We do have like a little effect that looks like a fairy sprite or something, but it's not a token. Let's see here. I believe it's under magic. Something like this. Like these magic orbs. Like they kind of look like fairies. Anyway. There is a token that looks like a fairy. I'm not familiar with which token you're talking about. I could be wrong, though. I mean, if it's from the workshop, it could be completely different. Yeah, I'm looking through. I don't see any that are a fairy. Let's see here. Will the new room, with the new room elevations, does the room placement level on the creation matter any longer? I think it acts as a base like modifier for the central level, and it also tells the tool flatten to room height where room height is. So technically, it still discerns some things. So what I've noticed is you can place a building, right? And then you can raise and lower it a certain amount. 2.7 and 5.3 up, right? And by the way, each of those, a full number, each of those is like a solid DA cube up. So it's a unit of whatever tabletop measurement you use for a square. If it's D&D, it's 5 feet. So for using that example, this would be 25 and a half, a little bit taller than 25 and a half feet tall. Now, I assume that if you set your floor level to, water level, the base level and the height is dictated by that and how far you can drop it. I'm assuming you can drop lower if your elevation for your rooms is different. And what they're talking about here, it says room placement. So let's go to let's go to mountaintop. We're going to generate a new map. So raising this up, we can only go up to 2 now at mountaintop height. But we can go down probably to 5.3 or 6. Huh, that's inconsistent. Weird. Anyway, so you can go down further when you're at a mountaintop height than you can when you're at ground level, and vice versa. Yeah, 8 total range, so that's 40 feet total. I mean, if you play D&D. It's not bad, that's 4 floors, if you think about it. So I tested something while we were live, and I unsubbed from all the assets I was subbed to because I noticed I had a weird, bunch in here. And it was so quick, it didn't even affect performance at all. That's so amazing. So we've made a lot of improvements to Steam Workshop performance. And a lot of people have brought to our attention performance issues related to workshop assets. Whether you were downloading a lot of assets, you'd run into performance issues, or if you were sharing a lot of assets, you'd run into performance issues. Additionally, we've increased performance in both of those categories. So you can download assets, subscribe and unsubscribe from assets more fluidly. Which is nice. And a couple of things that are changing. There's like a little UI icon on downloaded assets. So when they're mixed in with other ones, so let's say, here I'm in wood platforms. Here's a couple of my assets shared in there. These palisades. These palisades, now they're marked with a little download so people know at a glance, oh, these are from the workshop. If you go into the workshop, a couple things are changed too. It shows a number count of how many maps and assets at the top. So this is just map count, 8,770. Getting really close to that 9,000. Getting really close. Over here, 4,093 assets shared on the workshop. The asset browser and the map browser have a history now, meaning if you're 9 pages deep and you open a random asset, if you press back instead of going to the first page, it's on the same page where you were at just a moment. So you have, better browsing experience. Assets don't put as big of a burden on DA anymore or your computer. We were testing the other day. One of our most prolific uploaders had close to what? Asmodeus, are you here? How many assets are in your list? Isn't it something like 700-800 now? Maybe even more? And you were able to load DA like that. Now, granted, he has a really powerful machine. 1,400 assets. That's a really insane amount of assets. Like, it's crazy how many you've shared, and like before, this was affecting his performance a lot. He had to remove them from his load order. It's gonna be so much, it's so much faster. So we tested it the other day. I had a stopwatch going. He uploaded an asset. The average upload for him was like 10 to 20 minutes. So we, 20 minutes was, he said the last one he counted was like 1945 or something. So we just rounded up to 20 minutes, and then we did it, and it took like 15 seconds, 20 seconds. So he did it in under 20 seconds. That's like 1,000% reduction in time. It's ridiculous improvement. And loading up DA with tons of assets also improved. I had like 1,200 I was sub to in an alpha build, and I was able to load DA in like 40 seconds. I mean, maybe if you were sub to like over half of the assets in the workshop, you might notice a decrease in performance again. Because it's only, the performance increase can only go so far, but it does a lot. It does a lot. All right. So we've looked at kind of the variations of the Fey biome and what it can offer. Can we teach Larian? Actually, we have a relationship with Larian. So the, I think it was Cromwelp or whatever, one of the lead people over at Larian was at a convention where we were showcasing Dungeon Alchemist. Because the team at Dungeon Alchemist is based in Belgium, the majority of them. I'm like the outlier. I'm like the only US employee. I'm based in Vegas. But they had a couple Larian employees come up and check out Dungeon Alchemist while Baldur's Gate was still like in an alpha state. And they were like, oh, this is really cool. We like this. And they played around with Dungeon Alchemist for a bit. So we got their approval, at least to a degree. And I'm pretty sure they exchanged information. Who knows? But I doubt, we could offer any advice on how to improve their engine, per se. Let's do a dense vegetation generation on hills. We'll see what that looks like. I'm going to put it... Here, what should I do water-wise? I like a river, because the rivers have been improved. The generation for it's much better. Looks more natural. I think I'm just going to do a river. I know, I'm hitting questions. Would draw caves work on the larger mushrooms? No, it'd only work on the terrain, not the objects. But you can still add cave terrain to this biome if you wanted to. You can raise this up, and have a little cave area over on this side. Now that I've got the cave area, I can... This just goes to show how quickly you can add a cave to any map using the raise cave area tool and draw a carve cave tool. Okay. Can you add a light source without an object? Technically, no. Even with the ones on the workshop, there's still an object tied to it, but it's tiny. So, like, if you search light, SAC added some lights that are, like, these guys here. They're invisible lights, but they're still a tiny little gray thing. That being said, a bunch of improvements are being added to our, like, asset importer with the workshop stuff. So if you import, like, an animated asset or an asset with lights, or, like, the ability to change the color of the light, you'll be able to turn the light off and on, change the color like you can our light objects, and play and pause the animations of objects from the workshop. So to give you an idea, like this disco ball light, I'm going to just download it and add it. It's quite invisible, but it is still quite there. Maybe. Uh-oh. DA crashed again. It doesn't crash that often, actually. Especially right now. The build's really solid. I'm really impressed with this. Let me show you, though. Let's see here. Yeah. So this is the disco ball, which it's still technically this gray thing. You could see it, but notice all these little light filters here? It's because it has all those color options, so I could turn off each one of those. However, I only have the filter for one, so I could change like the color of one of them, or all of them to be purple, for instance, or something different. If I make it dark, it'll be easier to see. Kind of see the brightness of that it's emanating. So, like, anything that has animation to it will have a play pause button automatically added to it. Anything with a light will automatically get the on off and the filter option. So it's pretty good improvement since the last upgrade. It's a nice quality of life improvement overall. You don't even have to add the button yourself or tell it to do it. It just will automatically add it. And it even works with like tokens that are animated, or, you know, objects that are animated across the board. Let's see here. Back to the question list. When creating a room at a raised elevation, is there a way to add a texture to the raised surface? I mean, a texture that looks like part of the structure instead of dirt. Well, we weren't promising multi-level in this, so a lot of things in between two structures isn't really there yet. You can just raise the one structure, maybe do a stair, or stand some structural objects in between it, like the pillars and different, floor pieces and chunks like that. So it is possible. In fact, people have been doing multi-level and multi-tier and elevated builds for like close to a year now in Dungeon Alchemist, but by hand. That's the distinction. You gotta roll up your sleeves a little bit and do it by hand. I could point out hundreds of builds on the workshop that have multi-level or, you know, objects that show tiering between different structures. So being able to generate them at different heights just saves a step of having to figure out all of that verticality. And then connecting them between them, I mean, you could use everything from drawbridges to structural objects from the workshop, and everything in between. Unfortunately, an automated solution won't be available until we offer multi-level support for structures, which at that point would probably make a lot more sense to integrate, if that makes sense. Let's see here. Will the roundish rooms require all new community assets? No. In fact, I think I covered this earlier, but the majority of our assets will work just fine in the round rooms. They'll work perfectly. Let's see here. What would now be the best way to put stairs going down to the elevated area? Yeah, just use the object stairs. I wouldn't use downstairs because those sink into the ground. Those aren't the best. Upstairs work for down and upstairs. That's the way to go, because then you can mix and match stairs like these and have them go upward and downward. So if you have a sunken area, they can go into the ground or they can go up. And you can, you know, stack a few of these and get a good, reasonable upward stair. We've added in some round platform stairs that can, you know, probably stack like Lego really good once you kind of line them up. Yeah, you just got to find that lined piece. That looks really nice and simple. So there, I just made a quick rounded stair. It only took me a couple of seconds. Orgrax the Barbarian, what do you mean by that? Have you guys worked around the issue, export larger maps that are animated and not have them stutter? I mean, ultimately, if the map is large and you exported it, depending on your settings, you might have made the map way too big to play with your computer reasonably. there's a lot of variables that can come in play here. So without knowing your computer specs or anything like that, I can't really speak to a degree. They are, they could be a little bit more optimized to be like a smaller file. But if you export at like 72 DPI, which is what most, say, like virtual tabletops recommend, and the map size isn't like massive, say 200 on 200, it should load pretty reasonably. There are limits though. Most softwares out there, like virtual tabletops that you might use to facilitate TV tabletop play, have upper limits in file sizes, resolution, and all sorts of things. So if you're having problems with it stuttering, and they're meant to actually perfectly loop too, so I'm wondering where that stutter is coming from. Are you using effects at all? Hey Rev, how you doing, buddy? Caillou, he's not singling you out, man. The rules of the stream today are magic-related questions. Please don't take it personally, okay? Most virtual tabletops recommend using 70 to 72 DPI. Roll20, 70. Foundry, 72. Fantasy Grounds, 72. So there's a reason they do this. It keeps the file sizes smaller. If you export at, say, 150 or 300 DPI versus 72 to 300 DPI is 6 times the file size. So it may look nicer to your eyes, but the file size is large. And you as a DM, you got to think of how the play will be facilitated to every player in your group. You're producing a gameplay session, and if you have a player, say, with potato internet or a not that great of a PC, they may not be able to load a map that's 300 DPI, 100 by 100 online. So that's something I always ask people to think about. Work around the weakest link in your chain of your group. When you're playing in person, if you're playing on a TV and it's looping, your computer is usually running that, right? So the computer looping it, if its specs aren't necessarily that powerful, that could be part of the reason there's a stutter. Or if you're exporting at, say, 300 DPI, 100 by 100 map, that's going to be a massive export. It'll be like 800 megabytes, maybe up onto a gigabyte. So something like that could be huge. I would recommend not doing that. Let's see here. So there's no workarounds for that in our next update being pushed out that I'm aware of. So the workaround itself would be just trying your best not to export massive maps. Let's see here. When you make a room and reshape it afterwards, can you go from square to circle easily? Let's see here. I'm not sure if I follow that. Just a little mad. So you can really only shape it during the floor plan stage. And to get it to like round and vice versa, to go between like straight edges and round edges is very simple. If you keep the dot centered towards the center of mass, it keeps it round. If you pull it towards the edge, it does straight lines. If you need to undo any of these steps, you just Control Z at any point and step back, and it just reverts it back to its previous state. So if you messed up, that's pretty much the only thing it does. Does that answer your question there? I'm sorry. I hope that's what you were looking to get answered there. Let's see here. Are there any plans for adding posing to tokens? Let's say assets will force them to sit. That's an interesting suggestion. I don't know, to be honest with you. I do know, though, that tokens with animations on them, when you pause them, they go into like a kind of a T-pose, like a kind of a just a little bit of a tree T-pose. And it's interesting, to say the least. So it's possible we may offer limited rig posing, you know. I don't know what that would entail, though. If anything, we don't really have a token editor, a token manager, token builder, anything like that. So I don't foresee many token management solutions in the future. Realistically, I think just the play pause button rolled over to tokens because they're considered a hierarchy of object. You know what I mean? Let's see here. Asset, display name. Will your little white doggy Seymour been made into a token? He's in the workshop if you want to grab him. You just type Seymour. You can find him. But unfortunately, I don't think he'll ever be a core object. I could ask the devs. We'll see. You never know. I mean, they made a hammer for me once. Isn't grid height determined by the room height? Yes, that is correct, Dag. So yes, that's another sub thing determined by where the grid will be kind of locked to. Correct. Will rivers have directional flow? If they do, MDC 404, it will be in our Water Worlds update, which is, I can't really speculate as to when in our development it'll be. We do know that our last two updates will be High Seas and Instant Dungeons. One of those two will be the last two. They're like capstone updates, and we have 6 updates left, including Magic. We're pretty sure the next update will be Fun with Objects. So that leaves you 2 other points of, when will these updates be? One of them is Tricks and Traps, and the other one is Water Worlds. So those could, it could be anywhere from 2 updates from now to third to last update, essentially. It could be sandwiched in the middle there somewhere. It's Hendrik with a Y, not an I there. Okay, so. But yeah, Hendrik actually does have a token in the DA. You go to the monsters here. That's our the load icon guy when you load up DA. Okay, now that we've covered these questions, let's move on to more features, okay? Let's see here. We're going to talk about the new room types. I wasn't able to generate all the new room types last time, so we're going to generate some of them. So, last week I wasn't able to generate 2 room types. Witch's Hut was giving me trouble, so we'll start with that. Jeez, why is it so high? Oh, you know why? Yeah, we set to mountaintop. Room placement's high, but the elevation's flat. I totally messed that up. Let me start over. Sandwich update. I'm not sure what you mean, Dungeon Master Chef. So, we have, basically. So we have Magic and Fun with Objects most likely are the next. Well, we know Magic's the next one. Fun with Objects most likely after that. I'd imagine Tricks and Traps. I don't know, but Water Worlds could come after that. A lot of people want water-themed effects, water improvements. I was really stunned that we got the Water Sponge in this update, because I thought it was coming in Water Worlds, like where you can soak up water and leave the depression like a dry depression. You could soak up lakes, rivers, ponds, all sorts of stuff really quickly with this tool. Now, moving on, let's get back to the room types that we were going to draw here. Witch Hut. I think I want to connect it. Ah, looks like a dumbbell. Oops. Do that step. That's so nice when you make a mistake. Undo the step. Let's say I wanted this side over here to have angled points. And then I could have an offshoot to this and do like another room. And then I'm gonna, let's see, rotate it a little bit. Oof, it's hitting all the trees there. Move it. Why is it hitting the trees? That shouldn't matter at all. Not bad. That being said, the tree kind of cut into it over there and didn't ungenerate. Trying to figure out where it generated the door. Where's the door? I don't think it gave it. Oh, there's one. I wanted it over here. That was going to be the entryway. It's not too bad, though. Overall, the generation's pretty cool, and you got a lot more diversity in what you can and can't make. Let me turn on the grid so you can see how it's definitely not on grid at the moment. Like, this is completely perpendicular. Yeah, this guy here, every once in a while, the gallivanting cauldron, the prancing pot, will make a... Honestly, though, one thing that's nice is once you move the door, it reorientates the generation around where the door is. I didn't know if you guys and gals knew that. So you can regenerate the room, and then it changes, you know, the door stays in the same place. So this is really useful when you're making a room and you're like, I wanted the door on this side, but it's not doing it, right? So you generate the room. Let's say the door's over here, but you wanted it on the opposite side here. Then you can just regenerate the room with the door in that position, and it reorientates the objects around the door. The door is the focal point of orientation for the room, which makes sense because it's the entry point to any room or house. You know what I mean? Anyway, okay. So we've taken a look at the witch's hut here. Does anyone have any questions about the witch hut or what it entails? It's essentially this kind of weaved, you know, various, I would just call this like bramble, you know? Yeah, that door is nice. The windows are cool too, like all the shelving, everything is just, you know, just feels like old and gross and worn out and natural, you know? Really enjoy it. Y'all want to see something interesting we discovered the other day? The vice, when you put objects in it, it crushes and despawns them. I might be invoking some horrible wrath here. You see it despawn under there. Oh, she's done plenty. Yes, they added the button to it. I gave the feedback the other day and they added it. Does that mean? Does that mean? Oh my goodness, please tell me. Please tell me they added it for this. Yes! Okay, I'm going to take myself into a bottomless bag. Oh, what? That's a ripoff. The token is gone. Only my camera remained. Uh-oh. I messed it up. Yeah, I'm stuck in cinematic mode too. I can't leave it. Okay, let me reload DA really quick. Yeah, it'd be interesting if it shunted you out or something. But the fact that the bottomless bag has the play button now. So this is one of our new magic items that we've added. The... Oh, why it's all in caps, sorry. The bottomless bag is a really unique... It's pretty much a bag of holding. But it opens up, right? Instead of you putting objects in it, you open it up and then put stuff... And it has like storage compartments. And everything you put inside actually stores inside of it. So let's say you're putting a bunch of random objects here. Put a little raft inside. No, too big. Maybe a canoe? Too big. Let's put some chests. Lockbox there, and maybe one of these bad boys here. But when you close it, takes everything down inside with it. I bet a foldable raft would work. There's a few objects in the update that have this kind of magical property. That is one of them. Let me show you a couple more. There's an amulet. Where is it? Amulet. The Amulet of Table. I think this is a neat magical item that you could homebrew to give your players and have it just be like a little portable feast or like a portable workbench. And essentially what it does is it's an amulet that you open up and it's got a little, you know, little feast planned on it. But if you pull all this stuff off, you could essentially fill this with whatever you want. You could have treasure on it. You know, you could put a little, like, alchemist workshop or, you know, some tools or something. So what I would do in this case is probably go to, like, the utility section or the craft section. Like alchemist tools, so you could set up like a little alchemy workstation, right? Something like that, like a little on-the-go workbench for them. Nothing too fancy, but something they could quickly, you know, check, you know, chemical properties or something, and it's like a little pocket workbench. You shrink it up, take it away, open it up, it's back up. I don't think it will work because it's considered a pit. It has to attach to the ground. Yeah, so even with collisions. Can't be resized, has to be attached to the ground. Lettersmith, that's an interesting suggestion, to be honest with you. It sounds interesting. Whether it'll ever come to fruition, I don't know. I would probably recommend adding something like that on our upvote. There is this weird, gross flesh chest. This eyed abomination. There's a few flesh items. The flesh table is really unsettling. I don't like them. They're not my favorite. Other people really enjoy them. That's a navel, by the way, just so you know. This thing here looks like it's Cthulhu's kid. Or like... It is a little gross. Fleshed. Yep, you got it right, Seisu. A little microscope on the table. And they've got like a little traveling, you know, chemistry set. Something like that. Whoop. I think that'd be a nice little homebrew item. And once they open it the first time, you just do a little cool animation of you recording it in first person. And then you'd be like, oh, it's a little... It appears to be a chemistry set that appears out of nowhere, you know? So, or it could be a little, you know, a blacksmithing bench or a books, you know, a couple of books or like a little library or something. I think it'd be a fun little item. There is, let's see, one other item that does some surprising stuff. This one here. This is called Tazel's Fortified Tower. My only concern is I cannot seem to put objects in this. Okay, now we can. Cool. Last time I checked, you could not. So let's put a couple things in this. Let's put this, and we'll put I like how we have the bathroom, but no bathtub in it. I guess it's just stuff you'd find in the bathroom. I'm just gonna put a bunch of random items in here. Right? And then we'll shrink it and see what happens. Didn't take that with it. Interesting. Okay, it is bugged. I'm gonna have to report that. But inside there's a cannon that you can fire, and it actually does like animations out the side. Here, I'll do it from the top down, it's easier to see. No, this is an asset that'll be in DA when the new update launches. This is called Tazel's Fortified Tower. And it's essentially a pocket fortress, you know? Don't think so. Good question though, Sack. You always have the difficult ones. Let's find out. Yes! It's a mini cannon. Very Lilliputian. You know, MDC, every time I see that question, I always feel it's so obtuse. Because we've given lots of tools to allow you to interact with these things in DA, like first-person cameras, cinematic cameras that allow you to record and then export and use them as handouts or scenes in your virtual tabletop of choice. You could then trigger these when they, you know, interact with them for the first time, for instance. So it's not like impossible to not garner use out of these things. Secondly, we do plan to offer like tile exports and things like that in the future. I could see fun with objects being the point we do that. Remember, anytime you have a question, you're like, why isn't this happening? I'm pulling out my hair wondering. The answer is usually early access. A lot of times, early access is indicative of why something doesn't feel fully featured or isn't available. And the other thing is we're kind of playing chicken with Foundry and virtual tabletops like them. They're pushing out new features all the time as we wait to develop our features around it. Thirdly, and the devs have admitted this very openly, that it's very easy to showcase a product that has 3D animations versus, say, simple top-down interaction. It makes it more fun and visual, and not everyone uses Dungeon Alchemist in the same way. Some people may use it for tabletop gaming, other people use it for narrative tabletop gameplay, where it is exclusively where they play, and they use it for cinematic theater of the mind shots. So if you're not using a virtual tabletop, it is actually very, very useful. Additionally, there are people in our community who play within Dungeon Alchemist. They just use the grid and token system, and the DM just moves everything. Or they play on a TV tabletop and do everything with tokens on top of it. So yes, while there is limited interaction with, say, a virtual tabletop, that wasn't our primary focus when we launched DA. We've been adding more interactivity and compatibility with virtual tabletops with each update. And it will get better and better with time, and I think it's just a matter of waiting for us to come to a point of finality in Dungeon Alchemist. Ultimately it comes up a lot. So sometimes people are like, it seems like you guys waste a lot of time and energy making these animated assets that really have no purpose in top down or when you're in a virtual tabletop. But everyone forgets that not everyone plays in a virtual tabletop. It's kind of it is kind of the point I like to make, that not everyone uses DA the same, and some people get plenty of use out of these things right now. Oh, this portal got fixed. And I hope it wasn't seeming like I was like singling you out or arguing with you or anything. I just want to point out that there is a purpose to these things. Everything has a purpose. A lot of things in Dungeon Alchemist are done like foundational steps, layering, little bits at a time until it's a fully functional feature. The other thing I do want to point out, that VTT Lite features are definitely on the way. The devs have committed to offering them. If you go to our upvote, it says planned next to VTT Lite features, which means they have accepted it as something they want to develop and will do so. Where it'll end up in our developmental roadmap, I'm guessing after we leave early access. Once we have delivered on all our Kickstarter promises, the things we've said, hey, this is what we're going to do first. Once we do that, then we'll add on all these extra feature creep features that like are things that weren't promised initially but would be great and beneficial added at some point. It's been that way for a long time, Dag. If you look on the upvote, it says planned on VTT Lite. Now, last week we were looking at this portal, right? And there was only like the one portal option on it, and then I said something about it, and the devs are like, oh, you're right. So now there's all the different portal options. So before it was only like this like spinny kind of Stargate Event Horizon type thing, and now there's fire, all these different portal options. That one's kind of like a black smoke. I really like this portal. This one's my favorite portal in the update. You're not right? Decibel, I said this last week. That is straight up the contact portal. And no one got it but me. I felt like I was... It is contact. It straight up is contact. I guess I just gotta have the right audience in the crowd. I was like explaining... This is from Contact. Does anyone remember it? Dag, is that what it was? You were just ignoring me? You know what? This tent is really cool. It actually is floating. It looks like a little genie kind of stem underneath. But I feel like you could use this to make like a floating base. And then to kind of add like rocks and other things around it. So it could be like a floating island. But it's just the basis of everything because it's a tent with a structure in it. Like this, I mean, obviously just a tent itself is great. But I feel like this is a good starting point for something. Oh. I feel like Stargate did something like this happened. You can't take a Stargate into a Stargate. Portable hole meets a bag of holding, right? Or two bag of holdings, just shove one bag of holding into the other. I feel like all my years of Stargate should have prepared me for this, but I don't think they ever got a Stargate into a Stargate. They did have to deal with a black hole on the other side of the Stargate, which was delaying time and preventing them from closing the Stargate. It was pretty cool. They did not put the Stargate through the Stargate. Yeah, okay. I mean, maybe, I guess if the Supergate was open and then they had an unactive Stargate going through it. Just the Hypergate. Now, they did have one adjacent to it to jump it to it, like jumpstart the other gate. You know what? If we get talking about Stargate, I'll never stop. I hope Stargate comes back. Please, Amazon, MGM, please bring it back. Anyway, moving on. Well, the super gates are big enough to fit starships through, and starships can fit gates inside them, which was established early on. In fact, races will do that. They'll take a gate with them, and then they'll turn it on and prevent that race from escaping at that planet. But if it was active while they went through, I don't know. That'd be crazy. Anyway, moving on. See, we just did it. We started talking about it too long. I'm going to start making something cool. We're going to make an extra dimensional room here. Yeah, I was the people talking about that rumor. It looks like it, but it also could be done very poorly or very awesomely, depending on them. I really hope they kind of let the people who, like, really know the franchise the best, like, take control and do what they can with it. But it seems like nobody from the original franchise, or like anybody who was in possession of the show Bible or was a showrunner or even involved in the first stuff, is involved in it. So it makes me concerned. But then you see all the, like, original actors on the, like, trail at the moment doing, like, various, what is it called? Oh, darn it, I was trying to connect these. Messed it. Stargate Prime. They're out doing various conventions again, and they're all looking, like, extremely healthy, like they're on a fitness regimen. So it could be time. It could be time. Richard Dean Anderson's kids are, like, having their own kids, so it's like he could probably get back into acting comfortably. I'd really like to see the show pick up kind of where it left off. But anyway, moving on. The extra dimensional room is a trip. I'm not going to lie. The floor for it is this kind of abyssal black floor. And then, you know, essentially a mind palace, if you will. I definitely liken it to a pocket dimension, and it is called extra dimensional room. So they can do with that what you will. With that what you will. Oof, what are those? Like some weird external geometry once you raise this. Huh, interesting. They don't link. You see these little thread lines? I mean, I would probably just put it like dark parchment, and then you could be in the middle of nowhere, this would be just nowhere, you know? Playing with shapes. It's pretty fun to see the things you can do. Oops. This looks like a ship. Like a starship a little bit, doesn't it? Oops, I made the wrong room. Special. Extra dimensional. So the benefit of the dark parchment biome is really useful if you don't really want to showcase anything but the interior of a space. You can quickly essentially cater the biome to the space that you're showcasing. deleting everything around it. And what you're left with is a very trim, clean map with just the, you know, the area you are wanting to showcase. These are ideal if you want to just show interiors of a floor plan only. Say it's a large building with not like lots of exits, like a prison or a mansion or a castle, or maybe a dungeon, like the interior of a space with lots of rooms but no exits. If you go to new map, it's one of the different terrain biomes. Dark Parchment has been around since Dungeon Alchemist launched. I would say lots of ships are going to be really cool. You know, I mean, I will see. I've played around with it using the cabin, you know, room type. You can shape all sorts of ships, and they look really cool. But yeah, I think this looks neat. Stargate ship, yeah. There's a cabin room type, yes. It's been part of DA for a while. So here, I'll show you how I would like shape a basic ship. Darn it. Hoping to do both of those, but it doesn't look like that's an option. Nope, okay. So, like, this is just a basic kind of trireme type shape, I guess. The extra dimensional room could be good for, like, a blueprint, too. You know what I mean? But this could just be, like, one floor of a ship. You know what I mean? Several people have suggested it as a blueprint, suggested it as like a detective vision from like Arkham. You know, when Batman like goes into his detective mode and sees like the blueprint layout. It is essentially like that. But yeah, what I would recommend doing, I mean, you could have like a whole floor plan, right? Generate it without objects and essentially just use the special extra dimensional room and then generate the floor plan, like with its connected whatever. Give you an idea. I don't have an exact time yet, unfortunately. I just know the day, just sometime on the 12th. Most likely they'll release it early in Belgium time zone, typically. So they have all day to patch it if there's any reports or issues. And if you want individual rooms to feel more sealed off here, just drag off this individual room. It'll put a door in there. See? Unfortunately, there's only blue for this. You can't change the color at this time. But I mean, it looks like a blueprint in top down. Alrighty, more on the list here. Let's go take a look at object brush improvements. Make a new map, and we'll jump over to a Fey plain, flat, no vegetation. I'm gonna look at the question list really quick in between this. R.I.P. Decibel, the witch's hut is very spooky. Is there a matching roof? We don't tend to have roofing for many objects at this time. All the roofing really is available on the workshop, which is third-party support, so you just have to see if there's something available that'll work. Will there be a new flowers? Yes, there's tons of new flowers, like hundreds of new flowers, if I'm not mistaken. Well, no, like 50 to 60 new like plants. Mostly fey trees, fey plant life of all sorts. Fey mushrooms, fey plants, ferns, floating plants, flowers. Yeah, some fey flowers there. So there's probably close to 50 or so new plants. Is the witch hut... any cool witchy items besides the cauldron? I mean, there's all sorts. There's like cool bedding, and there's like a golem. There's like these cool dream catchers. There's bags of teeth. The chicken feet for, you know, doing like a wandering hut. All sorts of random stuff. You know, hex puppets, mandrake roots. There's a jar of eyeballs, like all sorts of magical items. Glowing, ethereal hands and faces. Wands of all types, floating brooms, etc. There's 2 new brooms that can... One of them floats and one leans, so there's the broom of flying, right? And that's the same broom just up against the wall. I don't know if there were any staves. Yeah, it looks like there's a couple of scepters, staves. Yes, and wands as well. Will there be objects that interact with each other? Yes, I mean, plenty of objects already today in the stream, for instance, that we showed that can interact with each other. For instance, the bottomless bag, you can place objects inside of it and then store them inside of it, and when you close it, they're stored inside and will open up and they'll be back there later. So there's several objects that interact with each other. Treasure chests do a similar thing, but they don't, you know, do a dimensional collapse. But yes and no. Depends on the object. Let's see here. Any new wood, flooring, walls? There's a bunch of new room types. I assume that some of them triggered new whatever to go with them, but they probably used a lot of our existing ones. Like the witch's hut used some of our existing floor types. I don't think there was any new floor types. Same with the wizard tower. There's a magic shop is a new thing. Let's see here. The potion class is new. The artificer workshop is new. The artificer workshop, I believe, has new wall types and flooring that are specific to that. Like these wooden walls are new for sure. Sometimes, depending on the type of room, there may or may not. Seems like the floor is always this tile one, which is kind of lame, actually. It seems to be fixated on that. All right. See, what me, I'd like some metal plates or something, or some grates here and there. Like that, you know? Maybe some wood flooring. But it seems like for the most part, this might be a new wood floor, the old wood blocks. I don't think I remember seeing that before. That looks new. Muddy bricks looks new too. So there might be a couple new flooring types that weren't around before. Muddy tiles. The pylon objects will act kind of like how the electrical arc objects are. Yeah, they're separate objects. They can be placed anywhere. They're just a standalone whatever. Let me see if I can find it. I don't even know what it's called, if I'm being honest with you. Leave it. Not that. It's not that. That. Dimensional pillar. But yeah, it should be called a pylon, huh? Anyway, there's a few cool like dimensional objects like this dimensional platform and pyramid. A couple of them can be changed. The dimensional door at least has some options to it, and the portal inside can be adjusted. They at least have a couple options there. Could you auto-gen a room with items, then change the wall? Yeah. Yeah, of course. You could change any room to any wall type and any floor to any floor type. So let's say I generated an artificer workshop. Right? If I don't like the flooring or the walls, I can go into the walls here and just change it to the dimensional walls on the outside, or just the inside, for instance, to represent that this is inside of something, like a pocket dimension. The outside is normal. Or you could do the same with the outside. You can change all walls or individual walls, so you can mix and match a couple of these like symbol ones in there. So this does individual, this does all, and you can change outside and inside, and then you could add even more walls if you want to. So you could like draw little individual rooms inside. If I want to change the floor, let's see, where is that? Ah, it's hard to see that void. We need an outline around it, for sure. But yeah, all the objects are still there, and it's a void room. Definitely a TARDIS, right? I mean, blueprints don't usually show the objects within them. They just show the floor plan, the wet wall. You know what I mean? So typically, generating a room without objects would be the go-to if you want a blueprint. IMO. But that's just me. The Vanta Black is nice, isn't it? Want to see something cool about these rooms? These rooms have a neat window type, the iris window. Add a sorting option for Hero Forge tokens. Well, they sort by their type already, I'm pretty sure. Like a monster, an NPC, hero. But aside from that, what kind of sorting are you looking for, per se? I mean, the Artificer Workshop is essentially a steampunk room. It fits really good there. Unfortunately, the windows do not have a size up, and I would love an iris door, but I don't think any made the cut. Let's check the doors just to see. Let's look at iron. I mean, we got like some vault doors and stuff, but it doesn't look like we have an iris door at this time. Be really cool though, wouldn't it? Can you change the lighting that holds up the obelisk things? What obelisk things? Are we talking about the pylons from earlier? These? I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you can definitely sort by searching, right? Can't you? Does it not do that, or is it already by this letter, right? You can sort by, like, naming stuff, but yeah, I get it. I get it. You want to change the order or something. I would say for now, just favoriting objects, tokens that you want to get to quicker. Putting them in your favorite menu is probably the best way to go for now. I would like the ability to rename tokens, maybe sort by like groups of your own for encounters, you know, and stuff like that. Would be amazing. But unfortunately, I can not say to when that'll be happening. Fun with objects would probably be the like pivotal moment for these things to be added. More features around it. Okay. Let's see here. I think I've answered all the questions. Let's just play around with the new room types and new objects. So when you get the new update, I encourage you to come in and first off read the patch notes. I'm not going to show them because I don't want to spoil it for anyone, or I guess we could look at them. We usually do look at them on these streams a little bit. So they're mostly done. Does everyone want to check them out? Take a read? You cannot change the pylon lighting. It's only blue at this time, though. I think if enough people recommend it to Wim, he might consider it. So. You can add roofing, but it's by hand, and it has to be a roof object. So if you go to the object panel, there's a couple roofs in there. There's like a shingled spire and a standard one. Or you can download one of the several dozen roofs from the workshop. We offer Steam Workshop integration with 3D model support. So there's like 4,000 plus 3D models on the workshop, or close to that amount, and then like 8,000 plus maps on the workshop. So people share maps and 3D models, but the models, there is all sorts of options for like prefab, just pre-done homes that you can just pop into a map to flesh out a village with extra stuff. And there's roofing options that you can put atop of any existing home. Can I show you what? Yeah, can I show rooms without floors? Yeah. Once everyone's done reading the notes, then we'll go from there. I just want everyone to read this section at least. How? So you take an object that's a roof and you put it on top of the house. Like a block or a Lego. It's actually pretty straightforward. The objects, when objects, like in the object panel, we'll show you in a moment, you can disable collisions and objects can be moved freely up and down. And then the roofs in the Steam Workshop panel, you just got to download a few of them and check them out. As mostly everyone that wanted to read this read through this stuff here in the notes. The demo is like a stripped down version of DA with like 1 or 2 room types, 1 biome. That's it. Very limited object set. So it's just DA on training wheels. Yeah, it doesn't seem to mention the Fey plane. I'll mention that. Zach, can you check a little bit later as well? Because I know you can see these independently. Okay, I'm going to open this up. We're going to generate a floor or a building without a floor. So one I really like is the cabin, for instance, because cabins a lot of times would have dirt floor, right? So you can just generate a room without flooring. And it has a default whatever. And remember, if you don't like the patterning in there, you could always use a different one. Yep, so let's say you're in like a... What would be really nice, I think, is the desert one. Because the inside of a tent, you know, just the dune itself. Right? Let's do dunes. So we have like the tents, right? that have been available for some time. Where are they? They're on. And I always just didn't like how, like a tent. Now it's like the desert floor underneath. It just looks so much more natural. Like it flattens it, right? But at least it's the same. It just feels so much more like real. You know, it'd be cool is if when you're on one of these, if you hold shift and then you can rotate your mouse wheel, it'd be rotating. And then if you hold control, you can raise up and down with your mouse wheel. Like a quick hotkey feedback for rotating. And I mean, you could make rounded tents for a while. They're one of the only things you could make rounded officially, right? Because you had these rounded tent walls. I just always like pointing that out. But yes, it's so much easier now. First, you make a even shape structure and rotate it in. And you generate. But that just feels so much more like, oh, we just popped up a tent in the desert. You know what I mean? I love hotkeys too. By the way, on our wiki, there's a page dedicated to hotkeys. Tons and tons of hotkeys. Make sure you check it out. This is rife for tile creation. Oh, I'm melting! That's so green. The dip. Right? Honestly, arguably, like, ooh, these are new, like, curtains. Neat. Let's just do, like, a section. The tapestries. We're here to see the tapestries. They get cut off, man. There's no border. So it's just cut off. Slice. Nope. You gotta wait. That poor shoe. I was traumatized watching that poor shoe get melted for years. Dag, you need to take a chill pill, brother. Relax. I'm going to do this right now for you. Okay? So, prior to now, you had normal borders. Small borders, which was a 2 border, so you would get no cutoff. Okay? Now there is a no border option, which, if it were me, personally, I would have opted for a transparent border that is a small border, but a 2 square transparent PNG border. But we don't offer PNG exports yet, only JPEG. So for right now, the no border option's great. But keep in mind, if you do this and you try to stitch maps together, you're still going to have immersion issues if you didn't properly make sure that something wasn't clipped at the edge. I don't think there's any additions to the overlay at the moment. They're probably going to make some more improvements and stuff. Let's see here. They're probably going to make some adjustments related to the overlay during fun with magic. Or, I mean, fun with objects or tricks and traps, I'd imagine. Can you pull up a hotkey list within DA? I don't think so. You can kind of see what the different hotkeys are on the items. Like, if you look at the edit menu, it shows the hotkeys. If you look at here, it shows the hotkeys. If you go into the object menu, it shows the hotkeys for, like, shift to place multiple, control to toggle, snap to grid. I do agree, though, it would be nice under the help menu if you just had, like, a hotkey button and it went to the hotkey menu on the wiki or something like that. Total party voided. So do you see how it works there, Dag? The no border is chopped off. We need a transparent border that's the small border. So it would be transparent and let the overhang. Anyway, moving on. Okay, let's see. Let's look at some objects for a couple minutes, and we're going to wrap up. All right, including some improvements to the brushes. Sound good? So the object brush is getting 3 new brush types. Before you just had the scattering brush, which was nice, don't get me wrong, but it was just a random scatter. So now you've got 3 new options. You've got the pattern scatter, which tends to be, well, the density there was, yeah, it won't work on some of them. Some of them is better than others, I've found. And so it tends to kind of spread them out so they're more like uniform. I feel it works best with kind of like a, you know, you're making a quick like cemetery, quick dirty old cemetery in the middle of nowhere, or it's overgrown, you know what I mean? So there are points for each brush that are better than others. For instance, I really like the circle brush to make like these quick, like improvised forts, right? Now you have like a quick circle fort. Alternatively, this is great for a couple other things. The circle brush, say you want a fairy ring to entice your players to go to the Feywild. Now you do. Or maybe a bunch of bones in a circle. And you can do concentric circles, so overlap them with each other to really make them interesting, like a sacrificial site, burial site in the middle of the woods. You know what I mean? Remember, you also have the object eraser to quickly erase your work and kind of clean it up and start over, or get portions of it, or to clean up the map. But yeah, you can do Venn diagrams, and then there's the freehand brush, which is, I'm not gonna lie, the best. You can essentially, this is like, here, let's make a quick, you know, wall, or a barricade, or a fort. Impromptu, you know, Roman fort, or a goblin fort. So you have a lot more control over the brushes because of the brush options, but then there's the advanced. If there is a collider on top of the vertical wall, then yes. So like if you stacked up a bunch of like stuff and had, you know, something up in the sky, then yeah. let's say you used like these structural objects here, and you go to stone constructions and you had a bunch of these set up, right? I'm just going to hold shift and flap a bunch of these bad boys out. As like a platform or a wall or whatever. We'll do them too high to really demonstrate this. Okay. By the way, I just held shift to quickly just duplicate the item as I placed it. Let's do the bones. Do the circle brush. Make it a little bit smaller so the connection fit on this. But yeah, the ones that are off the edge fell off the edge there, so the brush was just a little bit too large for it, but you get the idea. So it's like a sky burial or a, you know, sacrificial area. Okay. Excuse me. There's not any knocked over, like, palisades, per se, of these. There are some extra palisade options on the workshop, but they're more, like, pointed out. So if you search palisade here, for instance. So there's a few extra palisade options for barricades here. And then within DA, you know, obviously you have the line drawing tool, which I just showed. And then if you type in like barricade, I know you want it on its side to be like knocked over. Unfortunately, there's no way to rotate objects on a different axis at this time. You can just rotate them on this axis and that's it, unfortunately. In a future update, we plan to address that. But that will be some time from now. I mean, at minimum, probably 5 to 7 months. What was the question, Kilo? I might have missed it. Will there be an option to make thick walls? I mean, yeah, I just showed you how to make a thick wall. There's like several dozen castle options on our workshop that you can see and use as examples. Using structural objects, you can make very tall, thick wooden or stone walls. We have several variations of stone walls. You can put stairs on these, barricades. People have made like entire castles, fortified cities using these. I encourage you to go on the workshop and take a look. You know, like this one here, for instance, this mountain fortress is a great example. Has multi-tiered elevation, verticality, walls, etc. But, you know, this stuff is placed by hand. So essentially, you place out these walls kind of like this, right? And if you want them to be rotated adjacent from each other or start rounding them off, you would have to essentially merge them together a little bit and rotate one just off the axis of the other. But with the collisions off, then you can do that. And it starts making slightly different angles. And again, you can stack these on top of each other to continue building up the platform to that height. As you can see here, I have a slight angle going that way. It's not a perfect solution, but it's possible. In the future, we plan to address multi-level with our AI and probably several different tools. But for right now, it all just needs to be done the old-fashioned way, by hand. You gotta stack things. Bring out your Lego and block training from when you were a kid, and just kind of put things on top of each other. Decibel's question got answered there in the list. Any new gold loot? I don't think there was much new gold loot other than like magical items. So if an item is magical and gold, then yes. Oh, by the way, this mood lantern, it changes based on your interactivity with DA. So the more times you open and close DA, the different this mood lantern will be different. And the more you upload assets or maps to DA, the assets will be a little bit different. I was playing it with the other day, and it got really bright yellow when I was closing and opening DA a bunch of times. I'm not sure. It's a whole list of them. You could ask Quentin. He might be able to tell you further. Let's see. We probably should wrap up the stream as we've gone over. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else I want to look at before we wrap up. Ring of Fire is pretty cool. Neat little effect. The Sands of Kronos. Cool little magic item. Time dilation or time travel item. Spirit Communicator. Yeah, because I'm not 100% certain how it functions as of yet. He was explaining it to me yesterday, and I was like, wait, what? It's like an achievement kind of thing, so it tracks your usage in DA, and he's like, kind of. And I'm like, what does it track? Which metrics? So he told me the metrics, that it's every time you open and close DA, so every time you load it up, basically, and then every time you share a new asset or a new map on the workshop, it tracks those metrics. And it just slowly makes it different. If Quentin gives me the entry, I'll just add it to it too, so I'll talk to him about it. This thing? This is called the Starcatcher Scope, and it looks like there's a custom image option here. Let's see what we can put in it. Yeah, he's gonna crash. There we go. Let's put... Wow. 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 Totally projected it. I would never rickroll our community. There's quite a few star things. This is the Starcatcher Scope. There's a few druid items in the update. So there's a druidic portal, a druidic wand, and a druidic staff. Druidic portal, very natural looking. And you can pick different options for it. There's two new telescopes. Like a little one and a big one, and then a case with the telescope in it. So you could maybe give him an item that's a telescope. I'm trying to think what other things have star tied to them. Aside from that, yeah, I would say, you know, there's a couple like ethereal or like kind of cool, I don't know, astral or like extra dimensional type things that could work. Oh, this Eye of Divination's really cool. There's some really neat items in the update. This mouth is like a magic mouth and it talks. Well, you can export them for print. You can export them for print with our partner Kraken War Games or to print at your own home. with your printer, or you can export for video or like an image to use in a variety of different virtual tabletops. So for instance, we offer direct support with Foundry virtual tabletop, Fantasy Grounds, Roll20, Above VTT, and limited support with a couple others like Owlbear, Rodeo, etc. After that, you can use the video and pictures also on like TV tabletops or projector tabletops at home. There's people who actually run their games right from Dungeon Alchemist on their TV tabletop, and they'll like activate the grid and just move the screen around that they're showing because you can hide the UI. This is a horrible example for a map. This was just me showcasing objects, but it is quite possible, Meter Monkey, to play within Dungeon Alchemist to a limited capacity in person. Online, I wouldn't recommend it. I'd recommend using it in tandem with like a virtual tabletop. Do you happen to play with a virtual tabletop, or do you play in person? Let's hear a little bit about your table, how it works. You can pause the animations by clicking the pause button on them. Some animations have more control than others, like this here will always play. But if it has a pause button, it will indeed be able to be paused. Do you play it locally in person, or do you play online? Caillou? See there, I just took away all the effects of that cauldron, so it's like an empty cauldron. You can change the liquid. You can change the color of the, I believe that was like the bubbles coming out. Yep, the fumes. So if you play in person, are you on a TV tabletop, right? It's not. It's only like natural animations is tied to like trees and the water and like the lava, not these. It might stop some of these, but yeah, it only stopped the trees. Someone out earlier was asking about custom portals. I will say this update has like so many portals. And by that I mean every arch doorway is now a portal. Plus we added like a half dozen new portals. So if you take and add an arch doorway to any room, so like this one here, this wooden one for instance, this is now a portal. You can turn on any arch into a portal. So essentially you have hundreds of portal options at your whimsy. Fog of Not War or Fog of War is something the devs say they plan to implement. But what that will entail, I don't know. It remains to be seen. If there's a category for portals, then yes. I don't think there's a category for portals, so no. If there's a category for it, then yes. You know what'd be cool is if this arch had the portal too. We should ask them to do that. I don't think so, no. These are all the new portals being added, like the Artificer portal, the Dimension door, the Druidic portal, the Stone portal, plus any archway door can be turned into a portal. That being said, this stone thing should have portals. Okay. So, Dungeon Alchemist can export and work with Tabletop Simulator, but there's no 3D export support, nor will there ever be. I'm just going to let you know that. Our maps export in top-down. You can do flattened top-down or a 3D perspective top-down. And those maps work perfectly with Tabletop Simulator. I know they support JPEGs. There's several people in our community who use TTS just fine. So yeah, you could do that. I mean, there is a couple of magic circles. I mean, there's like this dimensional tile, which doesn't seem to do anything. That's weird. Doesn't look anything like that. Yep, I'm gonna report that. So there is this like force tile that's coming out, so that kind of looks like a portal. And then I do know there was like a magic circle, but I kind of felt like it was kind of basic. I wish there was more to it, like maybe 5 or 6 variations. There's this Stygian Dossier, which looks like a portal, kind of like does some darkness in it. And then it's like a black hole type thing. Let's see. Magic circle. There's this magic circle here. I was kind of hoping for more, like, or like an option to change it between like 4 or 5 different ones, but that's the only one. Oh, it has variations, huh? That makes sense. So these kind of work as like a portal as well. So you got a few ground portal options. All right, everyone. I think we're going to just quickly answer any remaining questions and then wrap it up. Kilo Lab asks, will there be a way to make custom liquids in the future? Is there a way to make waterfalls? The only way to do a waterfall currently would be to download an asset from the workshop waterfall there. There's like 6 or so that work great. Aside from that would be like workarounds in DA. We have an update planned called Water Worlds, which should address waterfalls, more water controls, maybe current, things like that. When that comes out, though, I don't know. I don't have an ETA, unfortunately. So at this point, we just kind of speculate, but it will add more control for water. You know what would be cool? Put some, like, white fire on top of this. And then... oh, it doesn't have a collider. Darn it. I was hoping it'd raise it. Bummer. Bunch of floor tile options there to match the dimensional wall, or the force wall, and sphere. Okay, can you pause these animations? So some animations can be paused, some cannot. Like, if a device has like a play or a pause button on it, then it can be paused locally. Some animations are always on, like little things like cauldrons and stuff. Now, like flames, for instance, you can turn them off, and you can disable all the flames in the map once you turn off one by Control-C, then Control-V, and then drag across the entire map. So if there were any other flames present, like a torch, it will disable them all and turn them off. I think. Weird. Anyway, that is a weird little bug there I just discovered. So it'll turn off the lights in the general vicinity if you want it to. Which is a great way to disable all the lighting animation. Let's say there's a bunch of objects that are all playing and have play pause buttons. You could do the same with that too. You can also open and close all doors. So animations can be kind of turned off en masse in a couple of points in DA. I'm hoping we get more animation control in the future where you could disable and enable all animations simultaneously to really save like frame rate and stuff. Right now you can disable like the natural animations, like the water movement and the tree movement under the view tab. Hopefully in the future we'll expand upon that. Anyway, Thank you everyone for hanging out today. I had a lot of fun showcasing the magic update and kind of showing you what I couldn't show last week and hanging out and sharing bits of knowledge about Dungeon Alchemist with everyone present. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and being a part of these reveal streams, these community initiatives. The magic update is very close. We'll be launching on the 12th, so stay tuned between now and then for any teasers, information, streams, etc. And, until then, we'll see you next time I give a damn. Mac out, alright? Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for being a part of the reveal stream. Just 4 short days. I hope you can make it. See you later, everyone. Back out. Bye.